My name is Eleanor Damon, and I want to speak about genealogy today. And I'm going to take the maternal line of my grandmothers. So I want to start 9 generations ago in the late 1700s. And the first person I want to mention is Katrijn Kaffer. Now, Katrijn Kaffer lived in the Northern Cape, and she was the wife of Jan Kloete. And in the 1900s, they baptized their daughter, Sarah Kloete, and Sarah Kloete got married to Dirk Kloete. Now, Dirk Kloete was one of the 7 brothers of Springbokfontein. They were the owners of Springbokfontein. And as the story has it, that 2 English prospectors came to Springbok today. Today it's called Springbok. They came to Springbok and they couldn't understand why, in full view of everybody, there was a mountain of copper. And as these farmers farmed with livestock, they were not interested in the copper at all. And so, at the end of their dealings, the 7 brothers lost their Springbokfontein, which is part of the bigger farm called Melkboskale. So the children of Dirk and Sarah was then moved to the Pella mission station, which was quite far away. Dirk has also got, if you have Dirk Kloete as Dirk Kloete on his death certificate, on his marriage certificate, and also the baptism of his children, you will see that he's called Dirk Gert Zoon. It means that his father was Gert, and then on his death certificate we find Grietjie Kloete as his mom. So of the 7 brothers, Dirk was the 3rd oldest son. One of the children of Dirk and Sarah was Sarah Maria. And Sarah Maria got married to Albertus Johannes Basson. And so now we find the surname going from Kaffer to Kloete to Basson. And they also lived in Eselfontein up in the Northern Cape. And with the stories of my ancestors, we are now quietly moving south into Calvinia, where the 2 were married. The Sarah Maria had a daughter called Anna Jacomina Christina Basson, and she got married to Jan Kloete. This is now the 3rd time that the Kloete family is marrying into my ancestry line. The 2 of them had 8 children, and the 8 children were all on the trekpad, because that was his line of business. They moved from place to place as the water allowed them. So in the winter time, they would stay put, and in the summertime, they would move. The trek was donkey carts, and they had tents where they lived in. And Oma Anna's husband was Jan Kloet, but he was also known as Jan Kloet Tweevrou. And so let me tell you a little bit about Jan Tweevrou. Why did he get this nickname of Tweevrou? His wife was then named as Annie, and she was Annie Basson, married Kloete. And then there was another person, another woman called Anna Farmer. So Jan had a relationship with both of these Annas, Anna Farmer and Anna Basson. The one was his legally married wife, and the other one was there to look after Anna, called Annie, as she was suffering from epileptic. While she was looking after Oma Annie, she also had a romantic relationship, and out of this relationship with Oupa Jan, 10 children were born. In essence, Oupa Jan had 18 children. With the birth of the 18th child, Oma Annie died. And Oma Annie was then buried very close to where they lived at the time. And 4 months after her death, little Annie was also found to have died. She also perished. And okay, so now Oupa Jan was free to marry Oma Anna, but he did not marry Oma Anna. He lived a few years after that, he died, and the 2 batches of children, all baptized as Kloetes, stayed together up till their deaths. So the 17 children then moved to the Richtersveld from the Kammisberge, and there is where you can still find the descendants of them. So the next person that comes from Oma Anna is Oma Anna's oldest daughter, who is my grandmother, and her name was Martha Maria. Now Martha Maria married Paulus Johannes Jacobus, it's other way around, Paulus Jacobus Johannes Smith. And they had 10 children. She was then called as being part of the Bosleespasters. Why such a name? Because there was a little place called Boslees in the Kammisberge. So, whilst moving around, Paul was coming from a very big Smith family in the Gordonia area. But he didn't stay with them. He followed his wife's people, so he trekked with the Bosleespasters. Martha had a young sister, Betty. And we remember that her mum died when they were very small. And she became the mum of Betty. So Betty and her husband decided to move to the Richtersveld. But Paul, and he's called Oupa Pok, already had his farm called Neridos. And Neridos was about 13 kilometers from Liliefontein in the Kammisberge. He was going to stay there because he had his livestock, he had his corn, he had his children in school, so they were settled as busters staying there outside of the mission station. Because the mission station didn't want these busters because they were Nama people. He said, okay, he will go with the trek because the government came in 1948 and said, we've got loads of land for you in the Richtersveld. There's enough water and the Namas there will give you enough land. And so with this promise, Oma Becky then moved with her family, the Strauss family. They got lost on the way, and Oupa Isaac, and the Becky's husband, and his brothers died at Magersfontein. So she was very sad, and then they eventually got to Eksteenfontein today, and then moved to Modderfontein, where this piece of land was. Oupa Pok then, worked the land, and he set up, okay, this is his land. But initially, remember, he wasn't going to go there. So his children were still in the Kamiesberge, and he was down here in the Richtersveld. And living there was not a good thing because they didn't have water. It's a very dry and arid place. And when they drank the water, these two wives, or these two people died. His wife died, and his wife's sister died after that. So there Oupa Pok was with 13 children, 5 orphans, and his own children. My mum was married by then already. So if I backtrack to the Kamiesberg now, Oupa Pok came back, got his children, and moved with his livestock then to show that, okay, he's accepted the fact that he's going to move there. So we packed up, he left the farm just like that. I have published a book where you can still see the fig trees. They are very tall because his grandson is farming there today. Okay, so Martha Maria Jacoba is my mom, is the 3rd oldest daughter of Martha Maria, her mom. And she then had her first child, and when her second child was born, she moved from Bosluis to Nourivier, and then moved to Peniel, because my dad got a job here, and my dad stayed at the school for 39 years. Coming to Peniel meant that in that same year, my 3rd oldest brother was born, and he was named after my grandfather, Paulus Jacobus Johannes. But this time it was Seister. So we've got a new surname into the maternal line now. So it was Smith, and then it became Seister. So here in Peniel, this very old mission station since 1843 was now the new home of my mum, and together my mum and dad had 8 children, of which I am smack in the middle. So we were 5 girls, and I'm the middle girl, and in 5 years' time we lost 3 of my sisters, and my dad and a brother. So the deaths were, cancer-related, and it wasn't a good time for the family. So we are still 2 sisters left. I then got married in 1979 to a very handsome young man, Jeffrey John Damon. And he comes from a family of 8 children from Stellenbosch. So we then moved to Atlantis because there was no accommodation. We couldn't Peniel was small, there wasn't enough land, so the next generation had to go and fend for themselves. So we lived there for 10 years, and then we moved back. And we had 2 children already then. And we moved to Kylemore. And Kylemore we lived for 30 years. So my daughter, which is the next generation on my woman line, is Genevieve Unica Marie Damon. And she's got this conglomerate of names because I chose the names of my children. The first one was PJ, so it is the Paulus Johannes Jacobus line that's coming down. Her name was the name of her dad, who's Jeffrey, and the name of my dad, who's Gerald, so she's going to be the G. The E is for her, her grandmother, who's Eunice, and my name. So it's Eleanor and Eunice. And the M is my mum's name and her mum's name and my grandmother. So I've got 2 grandmothers who is both Martha. So the tradition of naming in my mum's family was that every oldest daughter will be an M. So it will be Martha, it will be Mary, it will be Marina, it will be Marie. You know, everybody, oldest daughter will be M. And all the oldest sons will be a PJ. And so there's a nice little joke about my auntie that's still alive. She's the only auntie of the 10 children that's still alive. When they had their 4th child, hang on, isn't there going to be a son that we can call PJ? So when the daughter arrived, the 4th daughter, they called her Pauline Jeanette. Okay, that's fair enough. So, you know, we have this joke, and when the son was born after that, he didn't get, you know, he got some other name. But this little funniness of name giving also happened in my mom's generation, where by the time it was the 4th daughter, you remember my mom is the 3rd daughter, when it was the 4th child, Opa Pok was then very cut up. When is he going to name the child after his dad? It was a girl, and he named her with this male name, and her name was Jacobus Johannes Albertus Smith, and she died with that name, although she got married to a Swarts guy. So there's some fun into naming in genealogy as well. So now we come to Genevieve, who's got these 3 names. The 2 sons has got double barrel names. So on my mom's side, it will be PJ, but on my dad's side, on my dad's side, it will be JJ, because his father was JJ. All right? So Genevieve was then born in Cape Town, and she always wanted to be English. I don't know, you know, I taught them both languages, but she wanted to be English. And she went to an English school in Stellenbosch called Renish High School. And then she moved to Cape Town, and she's working for a very well-known radio station where she can speak English all the time. All right. And then the last generation is called, the daughter is called Gia. And Gia's got the same initials as her mom. She's also G-E-M. She's Gia Ella Madge. And the M tradition has come right through to her. She's named after her mum, the G, and her grandfather. The E is for me, and then the M is for the traditional M of the oldest children getting M's in their names. So if you know that I live in Peniel for 9 months now, it's full circle. I was born here, I was baptized here, I was confirmed as a member, I got married here, and my children were baptized in the Anglican Church, but when they got married, 2 of them married in this church, and all 4 of my grandchildren were baptized in this church. So Peniel lies very dear to my heart, very close to my heart. And if I look at the genealogy that I have been enslaved to, I've done genealogy for my whole life. And in 2018, being a student in genealogy, I published the first book about my Opa Pok, and his 10 children. Then in 2019, I published the second book of the sisters, who had 11 children of Peniel. In 2020, I published the third book of the big Smith family of the Gordonia and Namaqualand. Remember, I said that is where they come from in the Northern Cape. and it's called The Smith Family Comes Home. And then I'm busy with the Kluter family. So the Kluter family is so big, and I don't even know where to start. However, I do know, with all the research that I do and all the Kluters that I've mentioned, that I can go right up to Oma Grietjie Kluter and not get lost, because Gert Zoon is there to give me the guidance. However, if you do look at the Kluter family in South Africa, you will find that they come from Germany, from Keulen in Germany. And the Bessons, they come from Holland. So I am able to find not only into the 1700s with my research, I can go right into the 1500s with my family. Having said that in a nutshell, it's just apt to have a conversation about the woman in Women's Month, because today is the 1st of August, and so this whole month we're going to celebrate women in my family, but also women in South Africa and women in the world. Thank you so much. Môre Jonien. Ek is baie bly om vandag by julle te wees. Ek kom vandag net so bietjie my boodskap van boeke. Oor 30 jaar kom ek vir jou bekendstel en net so bietjie inligting gee rondom dit wat ek nou al geskryf het. Okay. As ek begin in 1998 het ek my meestersgraad gedoen op Stellenbosch. Gedeelte daarvan was om 'n mini-thesis te skryf. So hierdie boek was dan een van my eerste keer wat my naam in woorde geskryf het, en dit is gebind en gedruk deur 'n plaaslike persoon en sy naam is Aubrey Loubser. As ons dit die eerste ene is, dan is dit vandag se boek wat vandag hy dit nou net by my kom aflewer. En die boek se naam is Goud vir Lenny. En hierdie boek gaan oor 'n Down-syndroom kind van Stellenbosch Eersterivier wat 5 keer wêreldkampioen geword het. Hy's 'n Protea. En toe ek nou die boek vanoggend vashou, toe voel ek so trots dat Lenny se pa en ma wat agter op die boek verskyn, so hard gewerk het om die boek moontlik te maak. Die bekendstelling van die boek is môre in Eersterivier by julle huis. Okay. Hoe wonderlik sal dit nie wees nie. Dan die tweede akademiese werk wat ek dan nou baie lank geneem het om te kon voltooi, is my PhD in geskiedenis. Okay. En dit gaan oor my familie Suister. Nee, ek dink in die biblioteek is daar reeds 'n Suisterboek wat se titel is Van Toeka tot Nou, ja. Maar dis ook in Engels From Time Immemorial wat vertaal is, en hierdie genealogiese ondersoek het dan nou vir my so vasgegryp dat ek half so verslaafd is aan genealogie. Enige iemand kan vir my enige iets vra oor sy voorsate, dan ek op my voor, dan doen ek dit. So as ons praat van genealogie, gaan ek sommer nou volgens na die Smith familie wat ek in 2020 gedruk het in COVID deur meneer Loubser, en toe het ek 'n mobile launch gedoen vanuit Hermanus Stellenbosch tot bo in die Kalahari tot by Louwbos, en dis die verste punt. Daarna is jy in Botswana. En ek het dit vir elke familielid het ek dit gaan afgee. So dis die mobile launch. Alright? Dan as ons gaan na my kerk Piniel. Ek is baie passievol oor Piniel, en dit is hoekom my studie oor Piniel is. Maar voordat ons die boek Piniel en sy mense, wat ook sekerlik in die biblioteek is, hier is, ek is een van die medeskrywers, en ons medeskrywer word maandag begrawe, Mr. Freddy. So ons is nog net 2, ek en Mr. Matty Suister wat nog oor is, en ons dra die vlag vir Piniel en sy mense. Voordat ons dit publiseer in 2008, vra die kerk vir ons, wil julle nie vir ons 'n boek 'n feesboek bekendstel nie. En toe stel ons hierdie feesboek bekend in 2003, 5 jaar en dit toe daarna het Peniel en sy mense toe die lig gesien. Dan kom ek hier by genealogie, ek is weer by genealogie, en hier is 'n derde boekie wat nou nie hier is nie, en nou dink ek aan my 6 kleinkinders. Ek wil vir hulle elkeen 'n boekie dat hulle kan sê, my ouma het vir my die boekie gedoen, né? Het ek die eerste boekie is The Two Hennas, en The Two Hennas is 'n persboekie want haar favorite color is purple, het verskyn in 2020 en sy leer dan in die boekie hoe haar naam dan Henna is, want haar groot ouma se naam was ook Henna, en dis hoekom die boekie se naam The Two Hennas is. So The Two Hennas is by die huis, ek het nog net een boekie oor, en ek weet die ekonomie vanoggend kry nie. Dan die tweede boek wat daarna verskyn, is vir Henna se suster, en dit gaan oor The House of Martha. En ek het gister vir die twee menere vertel, hoe in ons familie, al die oudste kinders van my oupa, se name begin met M. Is Marina, Maria, Annemarie, Malin, Marlie, almal se name is M. En al die seuns is PJ, want hy was Paulus, Jacobus, Johannes, Albertus, Smit. En my kleinkind se naam is Gia Ella Madge, en dis hoekom sy The House of Martha. En die boekie vertel dan die storie van die familie van naamgewing in genealogie. Dan kom ons by die derde boekie vir die kinderboeke, is, ek noem het trek, want hierdie 8 mense, wat 8 families verteenwoordig, want ek kom van 8 families vandaan, ek kom van die Suisters, ek kom van die Tobiases, ek kom van die Smitte, ek kom van die Farmers, ek kom van die Bassons en van die Pinaars. Dis my 8 families. En ek kon van elke grootjie, kon ek 'n storieetjie vertel. En dit gaan dan vir my oudste kleindogter, wat dan nou die vlag vir die kinders moet dra, wat ek dan 2023 kon ek hierdie boekie uitbring. Dan is ek ook lief vir reis. Dis een van soort. Genealogie is my liefde, en dan ook akademie is my liefde, maar ek hou ook van reis. En ek het hierdie boek Stofpad uitgebring, verlede jaar in Januarie. Het lang gevat, 3 jaar gevat, het gesweet en gesoep het verander, maar hierin het ek reisverhale en gedigte op 6 kontinente. Ek kon nie nog by Antarktika uitkom nie, want dit is te koud daar. As dit hier in Peniel so koud is, dan moet jy weet hoe koud dit daar is. So ek het vertel wat met my gebeur het, wat het, jy weet, snaakse goed, maar ook hartseer goed, hoe ek vir Kilimanjaro kon kyk, en so wens ek kon daar op wees. Hoe kon ek by die Ipanema Beach op die Sugarloaf Mountain kon ek wees, maar ek het hoogtevrees, so ek kon nie daar op wees nie, en dit kom alles deur, en die boek is in COVID gedoen, so dis 'n COVID baby. En toe ek nie kon reis nie, toe reis ek in my kop. Maar nie net in my kop nie, maar ook in my hart. So hier is fisiese reise, maar ook spirituele reise. Dan het ek en nog 9 mense het deelgeneem aan 'n kompetisie wat deur Peesens in Kaapstad gehou was, Afrikaanse skryf. Nou ek is 'n 2-talige, 3-talige mens en soms 'n 4-talige mens. En toe dink ek, wat moet ek nou skryf? En ek skryf toe die verhaal, die geskenk in die Vullisdrom. En ek het dit vir hulle vertel gister, dat ek is 'n baie dromerige mens. En toe het ek nooit die droom gehad om oor Olimpiese spele toe te gaan nie. En die storie van die Olimpiese spele is in die boekie Woorde wat vrymaak. 'n Baie bekende digter, Diana Ferris, het vir ons aanlyn, het sy vir ons geskool en gesê so nie. En hierdie boek is ook in die COVID tyd, het hy dan, was hy gelunch aanlyn en hy was ook uitgegee dan. Ons as skrywers het die eerste keer mekaar gesien toe die boek in ons hande is en toe ons die boeke moet oorhandig. Toe sê, "O, is jy Andrei? O, is jy, ja?"
en toe bly te ken. Maar dit was alles aan. Het wys net hoe wonderlik die nuwe tegnologie geword het. So hier is dan 'n harde band en hier is 'n sagte band, alles deur Aubrey gedruk. Dan kom ek hier by hierdie 3 boeke. Nou hierdie 3 boeke is familie van mekaar. Ek gaan hulle so van oranje-blou tot by oranje en blou gaan ek beweeg. Die eerste boek se naam is Teaching a Noble Calling. Maar hy's tweetalig. Want toe ek aftree en jy weet mos nou daai Thailandse holiday was ek op gewees en toe het ek daar my storie klaar geskrywe. En toe ek my storie klaar het, toe kom soek ek, maar wie wil nou saam met my skrywe? En toe kry ek 11 ander vroue om saam met my te skrywe. En een van die vroue ken julle, juffrou Ethelwyn, het saam met my geskrywe. So sy is van Pinia, dan het daar Stellenbosch, my suster is op Stellenbosch sy, en die een vrou wat die oudste is, sy is nou 98 jaar vandag. En sy het haar storie sedert 1945 het sy haar storie in die boek vasgevang. Want my vraag was, wat doen 'n onderwyser met sy storie as hy afgetree het? En so het ons dit dan as 'n versameling in die bloemlesing Teaching a Noble Calling dan vervat. Toe die 2 jaar om is en die baba is gebore en die baba word groot, jy weet mos wat gebeur met die ouers, dan moet hulle nog 'n baba hê. En toe vra ek vir my die vraag, as ek nou die antwoord gekry het op vroue, wat van die mans? En jy weet, my pa was 'n onderwyser, en toe vat ek sy storie ook hierso. So hierdie keer is dit nie fotootjies nie, maar dit is die name van 5 mans en 6 vroue wat saam geskryf het. Weer, Mr. Matty ken jy? My pa is hier op Piniel, so dit is 2 Pinielers wat dan ook saam se stories saamgevat is in hierdie bloemlesing wat dan in 2022 verskyn. So hierdie een 2020, hierdie ene in 2022 en nou kom die laaste, dis die baby van die 3. En toe ons nou as matrikulante so by mekaar op WhatsApp praat, hoe gaan dit, goeiemôre, nou weer goeiedag, dis dit al wat ons kan sê, word ons bewus dat, ons was 50 jaar gelede, was ons in matriek. Wat gaan ons doen? Hoe gaan die mense vir ons onthou? En so het die buzz al groter geword. En ek vra toe ouens, wie van julle skryf saam met my? En ons skryf toe, 33 van ons skryf in die boek saam, uit 66, so 50% van ons stories is vasgevat. Ek het toe dit keer nie besluit om alleen te skryf nie. Ek het gevra vir iemand van die groep om saam met my. So, baie van die skrywers skryf ek alleen of skryf ek saam met iemand. Ek hou daarvan om my baton oor te gee aan iemand, sodat nie net ek die vaardigheid het nie, maar ek dit deel, ek bemagtig dan so iemand anders. En ons het hierdie jaar in Maart het ons dan die boek bekendgestel in ons ou skool en daar was van die mense wat ingevlieg het uit Johannesburg uit die Oos-Kaap uit Durban uit om by die geleentheid te wees. Want dit was 'n fees van praat en van onthou jy nog en hoe weet jy ek onthou. Dis die eerste keer wat hulle in 50 jaar terug is by hulle skool. So dit was 'n baie groot fees. So as ek eindig ek af met hierdie boek wat glad nie my boek is nie. Maar die boek is die boek van my oom, P.J.J. Smith. Kijk, hoe kom die naam weer op? My ma se broer. My ma se broer het 40 jaar, wil ek nou nie jok nie, 40 jaar het hy die land verlaat om te vlug van apartheid af. En toe apartheid oor is in 1994, bel hy uit Amerika om te sê, ek is hier, ek lewe nog. En hierdie boek skryf hy, omdat hy dit wil onthou. Hy het gesterf in 2019 en ek het hom in Namibië begrawe, hy het daar gewoon by sy kinders. Hy het teruggekom na sy kinders toe. Nadat onthou sy kinders ken hom nie, want hulle was so klein toe hy weg is, en hier kom hy terug. So dit is 'n baie spesiale boek, en ek skenk ook hierdie boek aan die biblioteek. So as iemand vra oor, het julle nie 'n boek oor dit nie. So, in 'n neutedop wil ek afsluit, dat hierdie boeke is nie alles wat ek geskryf het nie, maar ek het dit nou net gegryp soos, jy weet, ek moet nou vertrek en ek het voorberei en al storie wat ek te vertel het is my storie. Maar my droom is om 30 skryfstukke in 30 jaar te voltooi. En volgende jaar is my 30 jaar om. So ek spaak nou met die laaste 3 boeke om daai 30 vol te maak.
Okay.
So baie dankie dat die boeke nou 'n huisvesting het. Ek kom gee dit nou aan julle af vandag, sodat as daar iemand iets het om navorsing oor te doen, kan hulle dit op die reserve rak kry en dan kan hulle met liefde daarna kyk. Baie dankie vir jou tyd.
Baie dankie.